Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lemonade Stand. What the hell is going on in this crazy mixed up world of ours, Aiden?
Well,
and why is it our fault? Because half the comments in our last video is that the Lemonade Stand curse has cursed the world.
It's gotten too far.
Sometimes, look, occasionally when we talk about things, immediately the world throws a gigantic bomb of some kind, and we just feel like we should spread that out a little more.
It just doesn't help, Doug, that you have an episode where you literally paid witches to do curses.
Okay, have you guys seen
It doesn't help our
the
cause.
witches thing? Okay, so somebody paid an Etsy witch to help it's the Seattle Mariners, and they immediately started going on a winning streak.
Okay.
And then somebody I don't know if you guys saw this, somebody cursed Charlie Kirk with a witch.
Oh, I
You
did
think
see
it was
that.
a Charlie Kirk curse?
I'm not saying it's a Charlie Kirk curse.
Okay.
I am strongly...
You're implying.
All I'm saying is
That's
that
supernatural.
Aiden has been 10% funnier for the last 4 episodes of The Art.
That
is actually true. You just straight up got funnier, okay? So there may be some sort of power here.
Yeah. We talked about it in the Patreon, but Ludwig literally messaged Aiden and said, "Stop uploading. You're ruining the world." Like they're implying that every time we upload, the next day something bad happens.
That's how you know he listens to the show, because he called me out of the blue and he's just like, "You gotta stop uploading Lemonade Stand." And I thought this was just a conflict with work. Like he was worried about how much time I'm putting in or something.
Sweating.
He's like, "No, it's because you guys are causing concrete damage to society."
Well, now, once this episode releases, you have about 5 minutes to predict what is about to happen in the
get
world.
in the bunker.
Yeah. It's like, a new one dropped! Run!
But I think aside from the obvious, because Charlie Kirk's assassination happened, I believe, minutes after we uploaded our video last week. There's so much that has happened in the world in the last week, and we came each with a few different stories of how things seem to be falling apart. Just to walk you through kind of a week of world news.
Yeah, not all of them are terrible, but I'd say most of them are pretty wild. By the way, speaking of Charlie Kirk, just real quick, we'll say it. We talked about it pretty extensively on the Patreon. We did like a 45-minute conversation between us. Doug, you were doing your charity stream, which, by the way, congrats.
Thank you.
And you're a published author, by the way, congrats.
I am a #1 best-selling published author.
I just want to say, not only did I buy your book, I bought the AI-generated ripoff that someone made on Amazon. Yeah. Called Doug Last, The Life Story.
Yeah, just so people are aware, I did publish a book last week. It's a very good book. It did become a #1 bestseller in 3 categories on Amazon. It became the 10th highest book on Amazon, period, beating out 3 books about Charlie Kirk.
Which is crazy.
And then within 2 days, somebody made an AI-generated ripoff of the book where my name is, the book title is like Douglas Scott, A Life of Streaming, Doug M dash, bravely pushing against internet norms. And it's all AI generated and it's nonsense. So apparently if you are a best-selling author on Amazon, they will just make AI ripoffs.
I'm not joking, but I did buy it and I'm going to bring it on the show and we're going to read some
okay, cool. I was going to buy it too. I wanted to see what it is.
Man, I gotta get a copy.
So anyway, we'll probably talk more about that at the end because we want to get your take as well. But there's a lot of news. We all brought our stories. By the way, little caveat. There's so much happened this week. We're all bringing what we're interested in. We're just bringing stories that we thought were interesting to us, and we're going to try and share them with each other. This is not...
Yeah, this isn't your full encapsulation of news in the world from the past week.
Yeah.
In fact, let me illustrate how much we are not qualified to cover everything on the... I was spinning it earlier just now, the globe, and I kept looking for the Bolsonaro Brazil story in Africa. Took me 3 spins to get to the right continent. So
and that's who you're listening to.
Lemonade Stand Geography class. Geography class.
Now, we got a little story.
So what is going on with Bolsonaro?
We got a little story coming out of Brazil. So Bolsonaro is the previous president of Brazil. The Brazilian government roughly works like the American government. You have the president who sort of, is supposed to manage and operate the federal government. You have a roughly sort of congressional system. You have a Supreme Court, all this. So Bolsonaro is the Trump-like figure who won around the same time as Trump. Lost the election and is now replaced with a new prime minister who is more left-leaning. He was pretty, let's say, more far-right, more radical, very much in the same vein as the kind of demagoguery that Trump engaged in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So,
Make Brazil great again.
Make Brazil great again. In a shockingly similar parallel to what happened, he lost the election, and this is a few years ago now. I don't know if you remember the exact number.
Yeah.
But he lost the election fairly recently. Replaced with Lula, right? And then he went around and in something that has never been seen before by a leading world president, denied the election results. And not only was saying the election
would never happen here.
Never fraud. It was fraudulent and shouldn't be valid. He encouraged media to talk about this. He encouraged like different political figures to engage with this story and really push this. He was removed from office. And the big story this week is that the judiciary system in Brazil convicted him to 27 years in prison for basically attempting to overturn the results of the 2022 election.
2022 election.
And so I'm not deeply familiar with Brazilian politics, but what I did look up a little bit was I basically read the story and was like, sounds exactly like what happened here. So I looked it up. It's just beat for beat what happened, except they didn't even have January 6th. We had January 6th. And so Trump, I would argue, did basically all the same things. And so I was kind of trying to ask and figure out what is the difference? Why was the former president convicted of 27 years in prison in Brazil and not us? And it's just apparently they just got the conviction. That's just what they wanted to do. And
Bolsonaro can't dance the YMCA like Trump.
Yeah,
he's bulletproof.
And you know what's crazy too is Trump can and probably will pardon himself. So that opportunity is gone because he got reelected.
Yeah.
Me digging through the similarities between these two countries and finding out like Brazilian Tucker Carlson was talking about Brazilian Dominion voting machines on Brazilian Fox News. Like, I mean, do you have like how does someone of this position of power get drawn up on charges in a country like Brazil? Who makes the decision on his guilt? Is he arrested by the normal police? I think the idea that Trump would have even been arrested or charged for what happened seems maybe it's just because there's this feeling of him getting out of so many things over and over and over again within our system that the idea of him facing consequences for January 6th seemed very unlikely to me beyond.
It seemed very real after January 6th.
Yeah.
It felt like Trump was going to receive consequences, and then it just stalled, got super slow, stretched out, and then there's so many people that are currently Trump allies who around January 6th were disavowing him like rats from a sinking ship. They were throwing him under the bus. They were ready to, because they thought for sure, and then just nothing happened.
So what happened here? So what's the functional difference here? Like what system is Bolsonaro running into that someone like Trump isn't running into in the US?
It's just the judiciary system. So again, they have like essentially a judicial branch similar to the United States. And basically federal police acted on orders of the Supreme Court and arrested him. And so they are prosecuting him and convicting him of this and saying, you were attempting to undermine our democratic process. You were attempting to overturn the election. This is worthy of 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently like
4 out of 5 justices. Guilty verdicts? I'm sorry.
Apparently there were actually riots in January 8, 2023. That's shockingly similar to January 6th. So, there might be some degree of like, there's a real genuine sense of violence that was instituted, but for the most part, it's not like he...
Dude, it's January 8th, 2023.
Right.
It's like 2 days later. And they're saying, well, part of the charges here is that he laid the groundwork for a coup in 2021 by spreading disinformation about the voting system. Basically saying the voting is fraudulent.
That's the thing that struck out to me. It's like, it stuck out to me.
It's very similar.
It's just so similar.
B,
and so legally, we could do the same thing in the United States, but it would require, again, like a strong, rapid push from that. And obviously the Biden administration did pursue legal action against Trump for a number of things. And a couple of them stuck. Well, he has the felony charges for the money laundering, I forget, or money, whatever it was, the mislabeling of funds. But yeah, it's very interesting to see the difference in how this country handled this. And I guess one thing that is actually relevant to point, it's a more, let's say, left-leaning judicial branch in Brazil, whereas in America, our Supreme Court, very right-leaning. And so it's an interesting also parallel of like what happens when your Supreme Court leans one direction or the other, because it's just so unlikely in the United States that a 6 out of 9 conservative Supreme Court is going to like really actively, aggressively pursue this.
Yeah, I looked that up for a separate reason recently, and I found out that there hasn't been, how right now Trump's got the trifecta. He's got more, actually 4. He's got the House, he's got the Senate, he's got presidency, and he's got the judiciary. I looked up when the last time that happened on the other side, and it was like JFK. Like it hasn't been since the 60s. that there hasn't been a left-leaning Supreme Court plus the House plus the Senate plus the presidency. Like, that has not happened. So it's like it's rare. Actually. It's rare for either side to have that. They have it now. So yeah, it's interesting. Although I will say, if this is time delayed 2 years, right? If ours happened in 2020,
He'll be elected
president of Brazil.
It does appear Bolsonaro basically appears to be Trump in Brazil in all the same parallels, just 2 years shifted.
Yeah,
so it's gonna be.
There's
It's got to be cool. Like, it's almost like the witch's powers. Like, you just know what's going to happen. Damn, you think he's going to start sending ice?
Dude, they're nicknaming him the Trump of the tropics. I did not know how close it was. I knew Bolsonaro was I knew politically where he stood and sort of what happened. I didn't realize how similar this is to what happened with Donald Trump.
Do you think he's going to start
And they call him Trump.
start arresting illegal immigrants and then having them imprisoned in America?
Send him to Ohio.
Like, we have the playbook, all right? Trump is writing the book. Bolsonaro just needs to read it in 2 years.
And in 2 years, we know what's going to happen.
It's funny. It's like how every internet startup, for a while at least, they're caught up now, but for a while, every internet startup in America, China would just copy it and do it 2 years later in China. Right. It's, someone just watches what Trump does. And
where is he at right now? Is he in jail waiting for
under
a
house
sentence?
Arrest.
House arrest, waiting for a sentence?
He's under house arrest. Well, they had a sentence. It just came out. 27 years. That's what happened. That was the big announcement.
Oh, sorry. I thought he was just convicted.
He's
and they were
70-something years old. So it's basically, that's it. You know, unless... But again, with the
well,
way
I've
politics
heard
works,
from Putin and Xi Jinping that people can live to 150 with organ transfers.
Dude, imagine he actually gets out 27 years from now.
Damn.
Runs and wins.
Well, that's what BRICS is all about.
At age 97.
Speaking of BRICS, what's going on over
what else?
in-
All right, so I guess that's the main story. What else is going on? You want to talk about China? Speaking of China?
Yeah, I do want to talk about China a little bit.
I got a couple. I can talk about TikTok. We talk about Let's go.
I mean, this is a China story, but also a U.S. story. It has to do with the tariffs and the relationships between the two. So I thought,
could one of you guys spin the globe though? I don't feel like we've traveled across the world. That's the okay.
Yeah,
I'm going against the tags there.
Okay, spinning it the wrong way.
Okay, now I feel like I'm really learning something about the world.
Now we're in China.
Okay, a few months ago, I listened to this New York Times piece called "What an Iowa Farmer Fears About the Trade War." And it was about this woman who is a farmer of soybeans, and the market for soybeans is really, really dominated by China. They import the most soybeans in the world, and most of the output in the United States, more than 50% of the soybeans we make, has historically gone to China.
Okay.
And in certain areas or certain states like North Dakota, where a lot of soybean farmers are, over 70% of their crop is going to China.
That ties to Brazil a lot too.
And Brazil, this ties into Brazil as well.
We didn't plan this.
and I listened to this a few months ago, and in that piece, they're talking about the potential consequences of another trade war with China and how it'll affect their industry. Because in 2018, when tariffs got introduced the first time around, when there was a first trade war under Trump's first administration, the soybean farmers suffered a lot. Their revenues, I think, went down from around like 10 to 15 billion a year to a year where they made less than 4 billion in a span of 1 year. And the government had to step in and help subsidize the losses for that period of time.
The way I recall was like China, because we buy a lot more from China than they buy from us. So the few things that they buy are their strong levers in a trade war, and soybeans is the one they use a lot. Is like, that's the one they're one of their go-tos.
Yeah.
If there's a trade war.
I'm going to be honest. I feel like they have a little more leverage in this situation. Like they, in terms of like us having all of our manufactured goods versus them having less soybeans.
Exactly.
I feel
they
like
can survive.
They have a little bit more power. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what they did in the last time. And so they're doing it again, I assume. Or what's the...
Yeah. So the issue is coming around again. In the piece, this woman is explaining their long relationship over decades with China. It's really interesting because this woman from middle America, farming, like working class, is talking about how they have a really deep relationship with their buyers in China. They go and have traveled there. They have personal connections there. And, upsetting this balance in 2018 was a huge hit to this industry. And they're kind of bracing for how that might play out this year. And recently, we're a few weeks away from when the typical soybean harvest will be. And right now, as of right
Soybean
now,
season.
none of the soybeans are being bought by China at all in the US. None of the expected crop is expected to go there because of the current tariff. They cannot price competitively compared to other countries that produce
Brazil.
soybeans, like Brazil, most prominently,
Yeah.
and then also Argentina and Uruguay. And China, as a mechanism of leverage, is using this relationship and basically refusing to buy, or because of the market, refusing to buy these soybeans from the U.S. And there's this whole farming sector that is prepared to, collapse to a degree that they never have before, even compared to 2018. And I thought this was an interesting quote because it's from. Oh, one sec. So this is from a professor at a university in the area talking about the damage to the region, because I was like, well, what's the difference between this and last time? Like, is it really that different? And he said, I've never seen as monumental of a disruption in agriculture as we're experiencing now, said Mr. Wilson, who's been teaching at the university for 43 years. These are turbulent times. So China and these Chinese buyers would prefer to be working with the U.S. still at an individual or a company to company level, but the economics just do not make any sense anymore. And I think there is a political risk or a political pressure here where this is a demographic or an area of the country, like in these pockets of North Dakota or in these pockets of Iowa, that voted heavily for Trump. And will their support for him be fractured by the main source of their livelihood being taken apart? Maybe not, but that is one concern from the Trump administration's perspective of feeling pressured to solve this. And the article I was reading more recently about this threw in an interesting wrench into this as well. So Secretary of State Scott Bessent is the person that's sort of charged with solving this issue or dealing with...
They put everything on him.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry.
He's running the...
Bessent is Secretary of State now?
No, that's not...
Wait, did I miss...
You say Secretary of State.
You said Bessent. He's
Secretary,
Treasury
did I miss
Secretary.
Treasury Secretary? My bad.
Yeah.
I wrote down the wrong thing.
Do you mean Marco Rubio?
No, it's Bessent.
No, Rubio's...
It is Bessent. Secretary of the
Qatar
Treasury.
right now.
Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, is tied into
But
this.
they also got him doing the IRS. I don't know if you know that. He's like...
He's doing a lot.
They're making him do... Him and Rubio are like the only two people running around doing every actual job that they require. Yeah.
So one of this is an interesting thing that was brought up in the New York Times article that I was reading about this more recently, was that Bessent has a vested interest in this all personally, because he owns $25 million worth of soybean and corn farmland in North Dakota.
Yeah.
That if this continues to devolve, the value of these assets that he owns personally are going to collapse. And he had to report the fact that he owned these things and his potential conflict of interest a while ago, and has been facing pressure from the Office of Government Ethics that Bessent has failed to fully comply with his agreement to divest these financial assets, to get rid of his personal investment in an issue like this. And he has until December to fully comply. But if there's...
in this case, what he's doing is anti... You know what I'm saying? He's not helping his soybean interests.
No, he should be motivated to figure
this out.
Because he has personal assets on the line. And right now, there's no conceivable scenario where this changes in the next few weeks. And I think it raises a couple questions. Is if no trade deal comes to fruition that suddenly produces the Chinese demand for American soybeans again, what happens? Will the government step in and relieve these farmers of the economic issues of being able to not sell their crops anymore? Most likely. Otherwise, they face a multi-year problem of you don't bring in any revenue from one year, right? And you need a lot of that money to
so your
plant
farm
and buy
falls
equipment.
behind, and then you could never go back to fulfilling the demand because you're already a weaker farm.
And if anything changes next year and this were to be figured out, you're not in the economic position to even produce the crop that you're meant to.
It's almost like tariffs are fucking stupid.
So, and I think it begs the question is is the suffering of this specific group of people or the specific sector worth the achievement of some grander goal that tariffs are building to accomplish, right? I feel like that's the main line of argumentation you could take is, of course, this sector was going to suffer in the short term because of the tariffs going into place, but they're part of a grander
how do they
American
grow in the long term?
reconstruction.
What is it?
You know how you grow? Trump starts tweeting and telling everybody to eat more soy. We bring soy consumption back to America. That's the problem.
What do you make out of soybeans? What do you make out of
tofu?
Is that it? Like, what? Why does China eat so many soybeans? It's just tofu? Is that really the main?
They do eat a lot of tofu.
What are soybean oil, paints, plastic? Okay, there's something. Listen, I got a quote here from farmers affected by this. Okay, our yields and our crops and our weather are pretty good, so they're getting a lot of soybeans farmed this year. But obviously, interest from markets is right now on a low because nobody wants to buy it. And, these supply chains, like you said, are now being created that go around America. They're just going to buy it from Brazil or Argentina or somewhere else. Yeah. And then once those relationships get established, that's it. Like, you're locked in. Now they have multi-year trade deals, and there's not going back to your farmers. But anyway, the quote from the guy said, they ask him, with all this economic pain, rural areas could well have turned against Trump, but that doesn't seem to be happening. Polling experts say in the countryside he's still broadly popular. Mr. Maxwell, the farmer for this piece, look at him. He's got a cute smile. Says he's sticking with Trump despite his own financial worries. Our president told us it was going to take time to get all these tariffs in place. I'm going to be patient. I believe in our president.
So that's what I'm saying.
So
but
they're in place. That's not the problem.
I'm in the villain. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. I'm in the villain chair, and I as a soybean farmer who voted for Trump, who is yet to be able to schedule where my crop will be sold this year. Mm-hmm. I understand that change takes a long time.
I can't think of anyone
that Trump is on
less of an advocate for soybean farmers in the Midwest than a podcaster in LA.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm deeply ingrained.
You're not deeply ingrained.
But is this not a reflection of what I'm saying? Is like there is a belief and there is a line of argumentation that this is the short-term cost of some grander solution to our economic woes. And if you had to sit down with this guy,
Mr. Maxwell.
Which, let's pretend it's me.
Okay, hello, Mr. Maxwell. It's an honor to meet you.
Mr. Maxwell.
You're a real hardworking American, and I appreciate that.
Well, you got soft hands, city boy.
Me? Yes. Me and my fellow podcasters. There's one you should meet. He is as soft as it gets.
You gotta let go of my hand.
He's in multiple podcasts, actually. It's really embarrassing. Mr. Maxwell, my response would be, even if the stated goals of these tariffs work and we bring manufacturing back to America, how does that help you, my friend, as a soybean exporter? How does that, I don't understand. Even if Donald Trump has created this great manufacturing system, are you going to become a manufacturer?
I think the president is aiming to bring back so much manufacturing to the United States and so much economic activity that because of the grander economic success of the United States, there will be an increased demand for my product locally.
Locally? Okay.
I don't know if he would say that.
I see. Well, I don't think he would say that, but okay. So the idea is that America grows so much that we can consume all of the soy ourselves.
We need to outgrow the debt.
We can consume more than the billion people of China could ever consume.
No, I'm beginning to see the issue here.
It's funny. If you're like a local American manufacturer, I guess I could see how you could get this in your mind and go for it and be like, well, the tariffs help me be more competitive.
I think you might just have a very vague idea that the grander economic success of the country is going to somehow relieve you of the pain in your current position.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, I don't think policy should be solely dictated by the success or failure of a single agricultural industry in the United States. That's not what I mean to say here. It's more how, if someone has this outlook, I don't really know how to push against it effectively.
Here's one, which is these farmers have a system and their own economy that is based around exporting internationally, right? Mm-hmm. And the idea is to make the United States more self-sufficient, right? And part of that would mean selling products that the United States wants. Like, we just don't want that many soybeans, and you can make other things. Like, you can grow other things on soybean farms. It doesn't have to be soybeans. I mean, I'm not one half of my family is all farmers, so they're all in Texas. So this is, I mean, I'm actually invested in like farmland, and you can rotate crops. Like it's inconvenient, but it's not like these farmers now are fucked. Like they just have to rotate their business. And maybe the thinking is, okay, what has worked as a way of generating this profit internationally as part of the cost of us broadly as communities across the United States, bringing manufacturing back would mean that we are not going to focus on exports to those same countries. I mean, again, I
would two things. I would say they are fucked in the short term for sure because they have a whole bunch of soybeans that they spend a lot of money into.
Yeah, it is bad this year.
They already made
the soybeans are there. They're
it is
going
bad
to
right
harvest,
now.
and they're going to have a really unprofitable season where they have to lay people off and whatever. But the second thing is there's just no possible way, no matter what crop they switch to, for the United States to generate as much demand as the rest of the world in aggregate. That's just not like you'll just have to have, the farmers will take pain.
You're saying because we're applying tariffs on everybody, so everybody's going to retaliate.
That in general, but I'm just saying there's not enough people in the United States. The amount of soybeans you can sell to China will always be more, or crops you can sell to China plus Europe or whatever is always going to be more than what you can sell to 300 million people domestically. There's just no other way. I mean, there's just a lot more people out there who wanted to buy American
I'm just
agriculture.
glad the greedy farmer is going to have to share their profits with the working man now.
So, like, yeah, what I'm saying is, like, okay, you can make the argument that farmers will have to take an overall amount of pain for everyone else to benefit. If that's I don't agree, but this is the system. But it's just funny to me that the farmer himself is like, this is going to work out for me. Because it's not. There's just no way. If there's tariffs on all the other countries, then you will sell less and they will buy more from more competitive.
Okay, so counter argument.
Yeah.
What if the guy's like, all right, well, we're going to switch to growing more corn or sorghum or whatever, and they grow more things that are desired by the American consumers, and the tariff trade war stuff means less crops are being sold internationally into the United States, so they have less competition with the crops they do grow that Americans want.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's just not enough people. There's just not. So what I'm saying is they're going to eventually have a smaller slice of this total. It's going to be a smaller economic engine, which could be fine. I mean, you could take that as like from the outside, it's worth it. I just find it weird that the farmer wants it because the farmer will lose in in the long term. They are going to be I
have a question.
Okay.
So when I pulled, because like I said, my original interest in this story came from a podcast months ago.
Okay.
And in that piece, when I went to revisit it, I found the piece on YouTube. The comments are very vindictive because the woman that the piece is mainly about, I would say, she doesn't admit it directly, but has clearly voted for Trump, but is also bracing for the oncoming problems of his decisions, right? She's in a very similar spot to the guy that you just brought up in this article.
Yeah, okay.
And I think we live in a time where people are hungry for that leopards ate my face moment where somebody who voted for Trump, reaps the consequences of their vote, basically. They like seeing that, and then they like making fun of that person. And that's what all the comments on that piece are about. They're like, they're just being pretty heinous to this.
Yeah, I don't
woman.
fuck with that vibe at all. But
I just wanted more your guys' thoughts on that, because to me, this does feel like a very clear, you voted against your interests and are either in denial or like surprised this was the outcome when it felt somewhat obvious, but it doesn't. The idea of filling YouTube comments of like and making fun of these people for suffering.
I don't think it helps. I think it changes. I think these people dig their heels more. But I do want to say, I want to split that down the middle because I don't fault anyone, especially a farmer in the Midwest, for voting for Trump in 2024. Whatever. Biden was not. I mean, the Biden in the Kamala thing was already pretty unpopular, and then she didn't run a great campaign, and also there was inflation. And if you don't watch the news closely, you're just. I get it. I totally get it. It's not. I do find it a little frustrating when you're in a moment like now, when you are a soybean farmer who thought this is all going to be good for me, and now you are literally unable to sell your product because of decisions he's making, and you are going to have to lay people off. You're going to have material economic damage, and you still are like, this shit is going to work out. I find that to be a little frustrating, but I don't have any leopards ate my face. I'm in the YouTube comments.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. I would like someone to reach out to the guy and try to like talk to him and explain to him. Maybe
we can.
It is weird that he doesn't.
Genuinely, maybe we can give this guy a call and just ask.
Dude, I would love.
I would actually really like to ask this guy some questions. I think we're weeks out from when the harvest for these things starts, and we'll see how it plays out.
What if we get
through
our
the rest of
soft
the year.
hands up and we go fucking harvest some of the soybeans?
We go do a Lemonade Stand episode at the farm.
In the fields, bro.
We can do that.
Get some crops up.
I'm really curious to see. What I would like to wait for is, say we wait a couple months, we see what the government reaction to the lack of demand is, and see if there's like subsidies or help. And then, honestly, I'd like to talk to farmers then in the situation where they have received or have not received that support from the government, and see how that sways.
I think like 2
their
years
decision
from
about
now
the
is when this is
situation.
interesting, because
Yeah.
it is community. I mean, like, if even for the tariff supporters, there's acknowledgement it's going to be disruptive in the short term, right? And so I think it'll take time for somebody like this to go, this was wrong. Whereas this is the short-term pain that was clearly communicated. Whether it then turns into long-term benefit, I don't think any of the three of us are very confident in that. But like,
yeah.
I think it's perfectly reasonable. Again, knowing people in my family who are farmers who voted for Trump, like, I think it's perfectly reasonable for them to be like, this is what I was told is going to happen, but there's going to be this more sustainable America first economy long term. And maybe that means soybeans pass away, but we focus more on cattle or corn, and that will have higher yields because we're not competing with Brazil, who's like dramatically expanding their farming production every year, right? Like I think in a year or two, you can maybe call them, stupid or...
I'm not calling them stupid.
No, you.
Yeah,
I'm saying
okay.
the people in these comments, you
Yeah.
can be like, see, but it's too early to tell. I mean, right now, this is the known short-term pain of tariffs. Does it turn into benefits long-term?
I don't think this was known.
See, that's the thing
I
that
don't think
I
this
want
was
to push
known.
back on.
I think they would, if you would have asked them at the time of the election that they're going to flash forward and they're going to have a bunch of crop that they can't sell.
I do not think most of these voters, of these specific people, and we'd have to ask to know
Yeah.
for sure, but my guess is that when most people put that ballot box in November and voted for this guy, they were not like, I understand that I will not be able to sell my soybean crop a year from now, but that's worth the long-term gains of
Sure.
that economic
Yeah,
Look,
consequence.
I'm reading some
I
culture
do
here.
not think most people thought about
A
that.
lot of people say I think this is what most people thought from my understanding. Because I have uncles, I have family.
No.
They said a lot of people think he's just using tariffs as a bargaining chip, as a bluff. The idea was like the tariffs aren't really going to stick around. We're gonna
okay, yeah, that I get.
we're going to use the tariffs. We're going to threaten. We're going to get some things, but they're not actually going to stick around and make us be unable to sell our soybeans because that's.
So they're still, that's an interesting, like they're still under the thinking of like, this is just him riling things up right now.
and they're going to get a deal from
we
China.
can handle
and
1
yeah.
year of no soybean sale. Yeah, no, that makes
That's
sense.
what I think. And then the second thing is like, what am I blanking? It was very poignant, I promise. No, fucking whatever. Go on. I'm sorry. China news. I have no other China news if we want to keep going on.
Yeah,
I just real quick.
Yeah, wait.
We could do a sort of opium war type strategy where we get countries hooked on our
Okay.
soybeans.
Okay,
Well, here's the thing.
hold on.
China's too tough to fight, so we got to go somewhere. We have to go to like Australia or something
Let's
and make them all eat soybeans.
Let me
Yeah.
briefly sidetrack this.
Okay.
I actually think we're in an opium war with China, and we're losing.
For TikTok?
What?
Oh.
No, for fentanyl.
Oh,
For fentanyl,
yeah.
dude.
Actual opium.
They're,
Yeah. Yeah.
We're in the war, and we're on the other side.
Yeah.
And it's
We're
the
on
same-
the losing
It's the same
side.
thing because they sold opium for tea, and there's like fentanyl for soybeans. What else is going on?
No, okay. Well,
Is there
digital
anything
opium?
else?
Digital opium.
I think that's. I think
for
we're
this?
done. Actually, no. I think
that's
just
the
like
news.
that was the week.
news
It was
of the week, yeah.
soybeans in Brazil.
It was and that's why the world's on fire. I want to talk about digital opium. Okay, let's talk about TikTok. Let's talk about scrolling. That's what you know all about, Gen Z. Okay,
Makes me happy.
makes you. We finally had news. A little refresher on TikTok. It is the first time I've seen this in my
A
lifetime.
refresher on TikTok.
I want to do a refresh. I want to explain to you. Okay. This is the first time I've seen in my lifetime where a law was gone through the House, gone through the Senate, passed by Congress, signed by the president, approved by the Supreme Court. Nothing happened. We got through all the steps of the process. We said we're going to ban TikTok, and it just didn't. Nobody enforced it. Nothing happened. So we just kept extending, and then
In my
Yeah.
somewhat limited knowledge, this appears to be the most egregious thing that Trump has done. Everything else is what
Okay.
I'm no. Legally, hold on. Let me
Get
explain.
it.
he was
Getting out my-
Bolsonaro's lawyer.
Yeah, getting out my video camera to
I do mean
retape that
legally,
one.
okay.
Legally, like
baby.
everything else, every other time, and maybe there is an exception I'm not aware of, but every other time Trump tries to do a crazy thing and then the judicial system says you can't do this, he follows along and bitches and complains. This is the one thing where every single branch of the government, including the Supreme Court,
including him, he signed this letter. I mean,
everybody.
Yeah.
And so this is the one time where it's not just like etiquette and what the, and executive orders and all this stuff. He's straight up defying the orders of the Supreme Court to ban this. Guys, anyway, go ahead.
So that is the context going in, and we all know that TikTok was officially banned. And everyone freaked out, and then nothing happened, and then it keeps getting extended, and nothing happened. So finally, you have an update as of today. There is again, he always calls them deals, but it's like a framework of a deal with the United States and China on how to handle TikTok, which is, and this is my understanding, is they are going to, because here's China's goals, right? China does not want the algorithm to leave China.
Yeah.
That is the most important part. That is the TikTok key thing. It's the
Krabby Patty secret formula.
It's the Krabby Patty secret formula. And that was the big thing. And China was going to blow the whole, they were just going to they would rather have TikTok die in America than release the algorithm. So what they're going to do is they're going to license the algorithm to American TikTok, which will be a new company, US TikTok, that licenses the algorithm by paying a part of their revenue, I think 20% of their revenue, to China. So it's like almost no different than what it is now, really.
This is so much work to do. Am I crazy? So it says the guy with the Huawei laptop, but
it's deep state agent.
Is this not? It just feels like so much work to get.
So
basically
an American TikTok will be, I think, co-owned by some of the investors that are currently in TikTok, which is like, I don't know, Sequoia and some of the VCs. And then also Oracle is going to be a major owner. I think Blackstone was one of them. The Oracle's the lead one, which is interesting. So Oracle, which has already put out some incredible stock numbers on the back of hosting some of the data for TikTok in America, is now he's owned by Larry Ellison, right? He's the CEO. Mm-hmm. His son also owns the Paramount Skydance merger that owns CBS News. And it is now in the same day making a bid to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, which owns CNN. So if this were true, TikTok, CNN, and CBS News would be owned by the same billionaire Ellison family that, is very Trump friendly. So there is something unique to that. Although I will say, based on my understanding, they will not have control of the algorithm to be able to change it. It's just licensed through China.
You have to license it as it is.
Yeah. So I'm a little skeptical. It's still a framework deal.
So if we were to the goal of this was to protect American data from the Chinese government. That was the original reason why this cropped up at all, right? It was the idea that the amount of data TikTok is collecting from American citizens can be used against the US by the Chinese government because of their connections to, because they're connected to
There's multiple things. There's what the US government says. That's what they say. It's about
the
data.
Security reason.
It's the security reason. And then there's what everybody assumes to be the real one, which is the algorithm determines what topics are seen and promoted, right?
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of evidence to show that certain topics just magically don't get shown by the algorithm, right?
Hold on. Let me mute the mic on my laptop so we're...
Juju being perked up at his desk. He was like kind of bored. And he's like,
so
continue.
Tiananmen Square is a topic that China really, really doesn't want anybody talking about. And conveniently, videos about Tiananmen Square just don't get shown. Videos about the Uyghur genocide or crackdown or however you want to call that situation conveniently doesn't get shown. Mm-hmm. Hong Kong protests conveniently doesn't get shown. And so there's like very strong evidence that they are willing to use the algorithm to basically promote whatever content they want, and maybe they're pushing certain subjects, right? And the most egregious example is when it was threatened to be banned, they updated the app to basically say TikTok is threatened to be banned, you should reach out to your congressman. And that really freaked people out because this is a foreign government, the Chinese government, who's using an app to reach 100 million Americans and tell them you should go bother your congressperson to pass a law. So it is multiple. I think there are real genuine concerns around TikTok and the idea that an adversarial government that has an extremely bad track record with free speech and human rights. And obviously the United States government is not, absolved of things here as well. But they use the algorithm to push certain things and to bring down certain
So
things.
let's say all of the things, all of those concerns,
Right.
let's just say they're 100% true. If that is a given, how much does this license change those security concerns? That was my question.
Yeah, nothing.
Was like,
This
does
is
this
stupid.
actually resolve the
No, I don't think it
original
does.
reasons
No.
or fears
No,
that this existed?
No, it doesn't.
Oh,
The algorithm remains in China and remains
oh,
licensed from TikTok. So yeah, I don't think it.
oh, good.
I don't think this does anything. This is
There's two big ones. One is the data, and one is the algorithm's influence on discussion. Let's say the data is now going to be safer if that's held entirely within the U.S. systems, and if the algorithm is licensed, they can have more scrutiny over whether any data is leaving the United States. Like it'd be easier to self-contain it. So the data privacy concerns is the one. But who gives a shit about data privacy? Like honestly, is there anybody who's like, man, I really care if the Chinese government knows about what type of TikToks I'm watching? I mean, maybe, but so that data.
They steal my dance move.
I don't know. Maybe I'm unique in this. I just don't give a shit. The government knows stuff about. I don't know.
I mean, they know what I put into Notion. I'm
The US government already knows
I'm not too
everything.
concerned.
I
They
just
know
like,
every episode of this podcast
They know
as it airs because you're live streaming it to Xi Jinping's house.
Yeah. Well,
but
if you had the technology to do it like I did, you would do it.
Once I get my Chinese EV and I'm driving around talking about Tiananmen Square and it hard breaks.
All right. Do we want to hop on over to something else?
Is there anything else to say on this? I don't know. It's kind of dumb, but I think the funniest part is that we just ignored the law.
what are we doing? It's like, what are we doing? It's like TikTok is popular, so just nobody really cares. And
What's funny is I think there's a big fear among lawmakers and probably Trump in general that he has a lot of fans on TikTok that would be really mad if it were banned. But my guess is much like what happened in India. If they actually banned TikTok, there would be a new TikTok very quickly made in America or in a friendly country and would be popular within. It's not irreplaceable. The algorithm's good, but someone else can do it. And
what happened in India?
India banned TikTok, and then a bunch of TikTok competitors popped up, and that's what they use. They watch more YouTube Shorts, they watch more Instagram Reels, and they watch because India was concerned with the same thing. China's so close; they don't want the control of the narrative to be within an adversary's hands.
I agree. I think it is very concerning to have an adversarial government with this much influence over how people discuss news. That being said, our own tech companies do this. So
I will say every country in Europe probably feels that about
right. Like
YouTube and
every
and
other
Facebook
country. In fact, that leads into Nepal very well.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. That's a good one. Yeah, let's talk about
These
Nepal.
are all right.
This is a very interesting.
You got to stop spinning it the wrong way.
I will
both
spin
of you.
whichever way I want.
Nepal riots.
You guys are both bad at spinning the glove.
Now, I was particularly interested in this because I lived in Nepal for 3 months right after high school.
Oh, hi.
So I have spent a lot of time in Nepal in various parts of it. People who are not aware about Nepal, tiny country in between China and India, is most known for being heavily in the Himalayas. So it is one side of Mount Everest.
They got a fire flag too. It's not a rectangle.
It's not a rectangle.
It's not a rectangle.
It's so beast to have a flag that is triangular.
Oh, yeah. Flag is cool. So this is a country that is nestled in between China and India. And over the last decade or two, it's kind of been an interesting, they're kind of vying for influence. When I was there, it was extraordinarily influenced by India. And in fact, while Nepal is considered, people think of it as this Buddhist sort of haven, and you go there for the Buddhist temples. 90% of people there were practicing Hinduism. So it's very, very influenced by India. And then when I was there, insanely poor, one of the poorest countries in the world. So it's a small country. They now have 30 million people. And Kathmandu is the capital city. Kathmandu is basically the only city. This is not a giant bustling country. It's a lot of hills and fields that people are spread out in, and then there's one capital city. Yep. So this last week on September 8th, people started protesting, particularly led by Gen Z. And the quick summary is people were frustrated with government corruption, with inequality. People were particularly annoyed with government officials, their kids having these lavish like TikToks showing off their wealth and whatnot. And so this isn't that dissimilar from a lot of the kind of protesting and whatnot that's going around the world. I think a couple of things that are particularly notable. So on September 8th, tens of thousands of people go into the streets of Kathmandu. They start protesting intensely. They start burning down government buildings. They burn the parliament building. The prime minister and president private addresses get burned down, media buildings and hotels. And they break into the prime minister's office and essentially force him to resign. And so this is all instigated when the Nepalese government was threatening social media companies and saying, you have to register with the government and allow us to have control. Otherwise, you cannot exist in Nepal. So they did this. They tried to enact this law. They were temporarily banned, including Facebook, X, YouTube, Discord. And this was perceived to be by the youth as...
They got LinkedIn, dude. They got LinkedIn.
They get LinkedIn?
They got LinkedIn.
Damn.
They got Reddit.
Yeah. And so...
Imagine rioting because you can't access LinkedIn.
Man, it's just that's where I really hang these days.
Yeah. So so that really instigated this feeling of like, our government has been serving us. There's been corruption. We are struggling as a youth. We have like 22% youth unemployment. 20% of the country is still in poverty, which is actually a huge improvement from 15 years ago. And so they're like, this is crossing the line with the social media ban. This is basically an attempt to, enact even more authoritarianism and stop us from being able to do anything.
I was saying the timing is so suspect because it's right as these massive online #NepoKid online protests are happening, where they're like saying all the friends and family of these government officials are living lavish lifestyles. We're living in poverty. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
And that's when they decide we're going to crack down on social media.
Right.
People draw the connection.
So two really notable things from this that I thought was interesting. The first is, so Gen Z collectively is really kind of organizing around this. And they do this from a Discord group called Youth Against Corruption, which has like 160,000 members. So this starts to be where people who are participating in these protests and really organizing them, it's happening in this Discord channel. So for the first 2 days of the protest, they're going around burning buildings. The military come out. There's like 50 people die in the first 2 days. A couple police as well as protesters being shot by police. Eventually, the military comes out and assumes control. And now the protesters are sort of in control of things because of how much influence they have. They've literally burnt down the prime minister's house, and the prime minister has resigned. So
and fled as well, right?
Yeah. So they start debating about who should be the next leader in this Discord group. And so they start having live stream debates. There was a live stream debate with about 16,000 people watching on their own platform, as well as YouTube. They pick sort of front runners, and then they do a vote on Discord where people voted on which person they want to be the next prime minister of Nepal. And Chief Justice, or former Chief Justice, Sushila Karki is chosen. So the first thing, that's crazy. Everybody's just arguing about it on Discord. And like, that's where there's apparently like all these different debates. There's like fake news going around. So there's subgroups around, going against the fake news.
I'm in there. I'm in the Discord.
I tried to get in. It's blocked.
They
now.
blocked it now. Yeah,
Okay.
but I'm in there and I was reading stuff and it's so Gen Z. It's crazy. Like it'll be memes and someone being like, you guys should elect Joe Biden as president. And then it'll be like real serious paragraphs of discussion. And then it'll be memes and it's wild seeing it happen in real time. It's like Lord of the Flies. I mean, it's like there's real beautiful stuff, but also it's mixed in with so much meme.
Right. And I think that's what's worth just acknowledging is like, while this sounds cool on paper, it's almost inspiring of like the youth has managed to like overthrow what is perceived to be this, inactive, unresponsive, corrupt government. And at the same time, it's tens of thousands of people in Discord who are anonymous, who might not be Nepalese citizens. The fact that you're in there is a little bit scary. Oh, yeah. People are spreading fake news. People are, for example, trying to bring back the monarchy. Like they want the king back, which is, if they vote on that on Discord, I guess that's legit. They use Discord to revote the king in. But it is like...
Okay, I want to counterpoint slightly. Only that I think what's inspiring about it is who they ended up choosing. Because this could have gone...
Yeah.
This is like an incredible choice, all things considered.
Yeah.
She has this history of anti-corruption. She's she's not Gen Z. She's like 70 years old. Yeah. She's not from a political party. She's independent. She's got, she's like pretty well respected and agreed upon from all genders. They pick somebody who's not just from their group.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the second place in the poll, I saw the poll in Discord. Second place for poll is random Nepali, which I thought meant a random person. I looked it up. Random Nepali is a YouTuber who's popular in Nepal, and that was their second choice. So it could have been Gen Z elects a YouTuber, and it's instead that they overwhelmingly picked like the right. I think seemingly the right person who like took this mantle, didn't understand Discord.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like that's cool. And,
Yeah. What stood out to me, so she's notable. Again, the youth is frustrated with corruption, the feeling the government isn't serving them, things aren't getting better. And so this woman that they chose to elect as the interim prime minister, she's 73, but she worked on the Supreme Court as a judge in the 2010s. So in 2012, she and another Supreme Court judge were jailed a serving minister for corruption. So she like aggressively pushed on corruption. She became the first chief justice, pushed against corruption even more. And then some lawmakers tried to impeach her in 2017 because they're like, oh, you're biased. And so she's considered a champion against corruption. And to me, felt like Lina Khan, to be honest, like this very like outsiding political figure who comes in and is pushing back against a very established system that eventually, gets removed in power. And so again, if this is like a kind of 2-year after America situation, in 2 years, Lina Khan will be elected president via Discord.
Don't get my hopes up. Don't get me started. Hey, by the way, can we do a slight interruption? No, fine. After this. One more thing after this. Go back to that.
Okay.
Actually, I want to interrupt right now. Very small. Guys, we got featured in the New York Times for our Lina Khan interview, and they framed it entirely around your question, Doug. And it pissed me off. They put us in there and they were like, Lemonade Stand collectively pressed Lina Khan hard on her.
Yeah, all three of us agree.
Yeah, I mean, that was very funny. Because it was true. Like, we wanted to ask that question, but the way that it's phrased, like, these 3 gamers all...
Yeah.
I was like, damn. Yeah. Damn, I got New York Times, bro. They misrepresented. Anyway, that's funny. Sorry, small aside.
I mean, to be fair, they represented me very well.
They did. They got you accurately. It should be included, but it was just like, it was funny because,
that 2 of the biggest Lina Khan glazers
in
were
the
told
world,
that
we're like told that, like, that's our one.
the one sentence is they pushed Lina Khan. That was like what 5 minutes
it was like
out
a
of
very small
90
chunk
minutes.
of the. I don't know. I thought that was funny.
Yep. So Nepal, crazy situation right now. Basically, they have an interim government from this woman who was elected by Discord. To be clear, that's not an official election. So there's a little bit of weirdness around. While everybody's like, yeah, this is cool, there is a sense of like, what's going on? And it is worth reminding people, again, like as cool as this is, if you go around Nepal, the vast majority of people do not have internet. They don't have electricity, right? Like even when I was there, you had internet maybe like an hour a day in the capital, right? The capital is a small percentage of the actual country. So you now have the prime minister of the country chosen via Discord. And so if you're the person in the hills of, 2 hours outside of Kathmandu, that feels a little weird to me. Like the places I went are like, there's no way these people had any part of this process. So it's cool and I think inspiring in a lot of ways. Yeah. And also a little concerning.
I'll say what she said when she stepped out, I watched an interview, is like she's going to take this honor from Gen Z and, and then she's going to do it. But it's only for 6 months, 6 to 8 months to set up real elections, which I think is cool. I mean, I'm more worried that like there's a long history of countries being in interim governments that collapse because there's so much instability and other, like, again, I want to say historically, both India and China have a strong interest, and also the United States, because we just love to meddle, want to meddle in Nepal. They want to have more influence and control over Nepal because it's a buffer state between the two. And so the chances of this going badly are still really high, of course. It's a very uncertain situation. But maybe I'm more hopeful than you on this one, but it's like, this could have gone way worse.
I think this is the best way this could have gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, and and at the same time, I just want to, remind people that 160,000 people in a Discord have voted the interim prime minister of a country.
And one of those guys is Atrioc.
Of 30 million people.
So and I'm in there causing chaos.
And that's sick as hell if you're in there. And that's, by definition, not the majority of the country. And it's just, it's not, I don't think it's the incredible, amazing restoration of democracy that maybe sounds like, even though it's
Atrioc in this Discord, guys. I think Modi is a leading example. You're just working on behalf of the Indian government.
I saw a tweet that was like a week ago. Discord announced that they were going to up the maximum number of people in a Discord server from 2.5 million to 25 million. And people were like, what is the possible? A few days later, Nepal overthrows their government.
I did have this thought with this story is there's an interesting trend of noticing Discord more in high stakes political media or situations, like here, or Charlie Kirk Shooter like confessing on Discord or talking on Discord, or I think it was a year or two ago when that kid, he was like 21, he was in the U.S. military, and he just dropped a document.
Like files, right?
He just dropped some files about the Russian-Ukraine war on Discord to like his boys, and then got arrested for it. But this theme of Discord becoming relevant enough to have these sorts of things
Have
take
you
place
seen
on
the people like getting messages from their parents like, were you in a, like, I know you're on Discord all the time. Are you in a chat with this guy? They think of Discord as like one thing.
It's one place.
Like one place. Where everybody's
I like the idea of all of these things happening in one server, and it's just like there's one channel where like this vote is happening, but also one channel where it's same server.
He's planning
where the guy is
assassinations,
planning
yeah.
the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Yeah, it's like Valorant scrims.
And then you got and then Valorant Tarek's
scrims,
Pro
the
City
yard
is on the bottom.
feedback. It's all in the one big Discord server.
Speaking of government collapse, though, France.
Oh, I can talk about France a little bit. I do want to say one final thing on this is like, we're not going to go deep on Indonesia as well, but all over Asia, there's an article right here. Gen Z protests are rattling governments all over Asia, from Nepal to Indonesia. This is happening not just in Nepal. And by the way, I'll say outside of Nepal, it's not going as well. It's not going as, and I will say a big part of that, in my understanding of the situation, is like how incredibly handled this was by the Nepal military. Like for me, that was like one of the big stories of this. They did not seize power when they could have. They tried to find a civilian authority to go above them.
Yeah.
They quieted the riots down. They regained order, got peace, but didn't seize power. Like it's like almost unheard of in a lot of countries for that happening. And I looked into it, and the Nepalese military is like so deeply respected by its people, by other countries. There's one quote I just want to say, I've said it in my video, but like they have these elite units called the Gurkhas, and they're like, if anyone tells you they fear death, they're either lying or a Gurkha. That's like badass. So I don't know. I just thought
They don't fear
They
death.
don't. fear death?
Sorry, don't fear death.
Yeah.
I said this
You know
wrong
what's
twice.
crazy? You
Yeah.
said that the
I said
exact same
it
way in your
wrong
YouTube
twice,
video.
and a lot of people gave me death
Yeah.
threats. I'm trying to get. They don't fear death. Yeah.
I'll just
Okay.
breathe. I know this is pandering, all right? But Nepal is an absolutely beautiful, incredible country with amazing people, and I would rank them S tier above every other country.
You heard it on the DougDoug country rankings.
It is cool to read this and be like, damn, this went so well. Like that's anyway.
This is how some American politicians talk about
I
Israel.
wish him the best.
Tell me what's happening in France.
Okay, very quick on France. Looking, it's actually so up our alley. It's crazy. I don't want to go too into it because I'll at least need to change my pants talking about.
Before you
Yeah.
get into it, here's my.
Give your understanding. and
It's
I'll
like
yell wrong loudly. if
every
you're wrong.
2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, these guys are in the streets burning cars.
True.
Every two
True.
weeks. It could be about the bread. It could be about the debt. I don't know.
I
So
will-
you tell
okay,
me what it is
okay.
this time.
I'll say people say that, but it really, if you graft number of protests or riots in
Yeah.
France per year, it's an uptrend. Okay,
Yeah.
they're getting more and more upset and more angry. What is happening is that they are gone through their fourth prime minister in a year because nobody can agree on what budget to pass. Really,
Yeah.
the first thing a prime minister does when they come in, they have to decide what they're going to spend money on, what they're going to cut, what they're going to raise taxes. Nobody can agree on that. I will say, all these prime ministers are nominated by the centrist Macron, who is trying to hold it all together, and nobody agrees with it. He's not very well liked. And so, but everyone he nominates comes in, tries to pass a bill, doesn't get passed. Things get more radicalized. Nothing, like the government is not able to govern. They can't do anything. They can't pass any budget. And so now it's becoming more and more of an issue.
Real quick.
Yeah.
So Macron, understanding he's
Yeah.
president, right?
Yep.
He elects the prime minister,
Yep.
but the prime minister has to be from the majority coalition, right?
Such a good question. I'm so glad you asked that. Okay, so here's how, I wish I could draw it, but imagine there's three basic groups that he could draw from.
Okay.
There's the centrist party that he is the head of.
Mhm.
There is the right-wing party called the RN. That's head by Le Pen.
Okay.
That is the single biggest individual party.
Okay.
And then the biggest group is what you would call the left-wing group, the New Popular Front. Okay? They got more than the other two groups, not a majority, but like more. It'd be like, I don't know, they got 34% or something like that.
Yeah.
But this group is made up of 20 individual parties in a trench coat,
Yeah.
all of whom do not agree, basically on almost anything except they don't like the other two parties.
Okay.
So, for example, like there's a socialist party in there, and you think maybe that's more left wing, but actually they're pretty centrist, and they really don't like the Mélenchon's biggest party, left wing party. So like they can't agree on who to nominate as a prime minister.
It sounds like American left politics too.
Yeah, it's similar. There's a lot of infighting.
Yeah.
But there is like a big support. So it's just like nobody can nominate somebody that other people will agree. Enough people will agree with to get a majority. So he keeps putting in these interest guys that are trying to get the bill passed. But what I'm saying is the debt in France, the bigger story here is like, it's all going to old people. And we've talked about this before, but it's more extreme than almost anywhere. I looked it up. There's a really good piece on it in the FT, a deep dive. And they showed that the average French old pensioner is living a better, like they have a better income than like the working age person in almost all of Europe and in America. Like they are living relatively lavishly on, they have one of the most generous pension packages. They have one of the longest pension times. So like the average French retiree is getting like 27 years or something after retirement that they're getting paid for. And like the government's income cannot support it. They are borrowing to make that happen. And so one thing you could do is raise taxes, which I'm sure that's a proposition on the left. And one thing you can do is cut benefits. But the truth is nobody wants to do either of those bad things enough to get a majority. Like anyone suggesting raising taxes cannot get a majority. Anyone suggesting cutting spending cannot get a majority. One of those riots you talked about, or we can call them protests, whatever, was because Macron tried to raise the retirement age 2 years. I think it was from 60 to 62 to where you can start getting the free retirement. That caused a massive protest.
Yeah, it might be 62 to 64. But
yeah, maybe that's right. Maybe that's right. You're right. You're correct. So anyway, that I'm not saying I'm giving you a solution here. I'm just saying like this is it's such a such a clusterfuck in France right now, and it doesn't seem like there's any near-term solution because the Macron doesn't get replaced until 2027.
Yeah, we had talked about this a little bit a couple months ago when the budget proposal by the previous prime minister now had been, because he already been kicked out.
Yeah,
previous had proposed something, and he was getting that negative feedback from both parties on either side, right? And I think the underlying thing is that the situation as it exists cannot continue in this fashion. Something needs to give in one direction. Nobody can get anything done to exit the current trajectory that they're on.
Yeah, and I think the problem is there is an upside to people for not playing along, which is that this fraying centrist party of Macron, as things don't get done, they bleed whatever. They bleed voters. I'm speaking like a fucking, they bleed voters to either the right wing or left wing parties. So neither of them have much interest in compromising because the longer they wait, the more they gain politically.
But I mean, let me propose a different angle. Yeah. The reason that we talked about this last week, the largest voting bloc in human history is the boomer generation. This is true of every country. It's true of the French country where, again, right now they're in retirement and they are benefiting. As you just said, they are receiving these incredible government benefits, even though the government can't support this long term. And so they are incentivized to not change because until they die, the government will probably continue to function and then their kids will have to deal with it.
Totally.
That is what is going on in our country, to be clear.
It's not old people rioting, which is I find it funny. Everyone is mad about these changes, but most of what is like, so I looked at the French government budget and it's like way more than education, military, roads, everything combined does not add up to what they spend on direct checks to old people. That is the function of the French government, is to give comfortable life to old people. That is what it does in practice, if not in name. So people should have comfortable lives. I don't disagree with that, but it's like the math is so egregious in this situation. And I think there's a very strong case that like one thing Macron has done is cut taxes on the wealthy, which has made it even more impossible to fund. I think that's totally fine. But man, the budget shortfall is big, and France's debt situation is now worse than like Greece. Like Greece borrowing costs are lower than France. The market thinks that Greece is more trustworthy to pay their debt back than France. So I don't know. I think we just want an update on it. That's not much more to say. And France is still a wealthy first world country. I'm not trying to, but it's just wild that like they're just functionally stuck. The government, as it's written, cannot make progress on these problems.
I feel like I'm watching the same cycle play out online over and over again in the last couple of years. Like when I look at this issue from the outside as an American, pretty much every piece of news about France is some attempted change. People go to the streets to protest and resist. Neither party will cooperate. And it's just basically the same story echoed again and again every few months for the last couple
and
years.
So realistically, what will happen is enough people will bleed out from the center to the sides that one of them gets enough power to make a move or like wins big or just seizes control or whatever. Like there's going to be an election in 2027. The RN is the most favored party right now, which is the right-wing one, but something will happen. I mean, that's what's going to be lifted. So anyway.
Didn't Le Pen get banned? I mean, there's a whole other thing.
She's banned from running, but the party is still leading the polls with their second in command.
Okay, so got it.
She can't run, but
okay.
This is very tied to something else I wanted to talk about, which was the Norwegian election that just happened.
Antarctica.
Dude, I would love for you to tell me one. This is a bad news episode, Aiden.
Yeah.
You better tell me one bad thing about Norway.
I know.
Because you've never done this on this podcast in your entire life or in your real world.
We got some bad things about Norway.
Thank God.
Or some problems that they're dealing with that are somewhat similar, except maybe more mild.
If this is bad, I wouldn't want any one of my friends even moving near there.
I wouldn't allow them to.
It would be my personal
I would call in a
moral
bomb threat at the
obligation.
airport if they tried to go.
All right.
Whatever
and
it
I would
takes.
not
He would
let
do
them
that.
leave because that would be a
He's
good
joking.
friend thing to do.
To be
wouldn't
clear,
do
I
that.
am inciting violence right now.
He's not inside. It's still a joke. It's still facetious. And okay, so
If we say this enough, we could get you banned.
I know. Norway.
And they're going to look online. They're going to be like, oh, well, all they do, they go antagonize Lena Khan. They don't seem
really
trustworthy
pressing
at all.
her.
Norway just had an election last week. And the results came in at the beginning.
This is on
I think
Discord, Dominion. What are we talking about?
they didn't do this one. It was actually all on WhatsApp. It's crazy. They did the results. I think were locked in. I think as of this morning, if I'm correct. But basically, the Labour Party, which was the existing party in power, which is a more left-leaning party, maybe left-center, depending on how you view it within Norwegian politics, won with 28% of the vote, which was up from 26% in 2021, which is the last time they had an election.
What was the party again? I'm sorry.
The Labour Party.
Labour Party won.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other party that won big in this election was the Progress Party, which is a more right-wing populist party that for the first time ever has become the leading opposition party within Norwegian politics.
Oh, interesting.
And they had a huge jump from 11% of the vote to almost 24% of the vote this time. And this is a fairly right-wing party, especially within Norwegian politics. They are outpacing the former more right party that had the biggest portion of the opposition, the Conservative Party, before them.
I mean, I would just say for Europe, it has, I didn't know about Norway at all. But like the European trend has been, and it's happened in America already, is that the center right is just getting obliterated, and there's a more populist right that is like surging.
Yeah.
That is happening all over Europe, and it happened here already.
And I think what's interesting is Norway is a country that, you know, even with the joke that you introduced this through, is a country that we see as separate from a lot of the struggles and consequences that the rest of the world is often going through.
They're like number one happiness or whatever. They have good fish.
They're up there in all the stats.
They have all the stats.
They're one of the most equal countries in the world. They're one of the richest countries in the world. They have a lot of success. They have a high quality of life, right? They define all of these metrics in a lot of ways. But this party, the Progress Party, the big points behind them is that they want to reduce. Yeah. Go
immigration. Number one,
Boom.
and two, and three.
All right. I'd say that's, maybe number one or two for them. They want to reduce taxes, reduce bureaucracy and government intervention, and you guessed it, they're anti-immigrant.
In that order? Really?
Well, I think it depends on who you talk to.
Okay, sure.
Anti-immigration broadly, I feel like is their number one, but within the context of this specific election, I felt like it might have been a little different.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
Norwegians
I
could
don't know
speak to
anything
that
about
better. I think their big win here was seen as a huge victory for this party because it's an enormous jump to go from 11% to almost 24%. They're high in this leadership in the opposition. They're angling for a chance at being the majority party in 2029. And that's the hope from them. But one specific note with this was at the center of this election that became a huge issue is the Norwegian Wealth Tax, which is a wealth tax that they have had in place in some form since 1892. And they are one of 3 countries in Europe that still applies a net wealth tax in this way. How does a wealth tax like this actually work? What it means is you're being taxed to some degree on all of the value of all of the assets you own. That could be like stocks, property, etc. And you don't have to sell and realize the gain of those assets to be taxed on it. So how does this actually work? It doesn't apply to you at all if you have assets below $180,000 USD.
That's not that high.
Which isn't super high, right? So a lot of people do pay this, but the tax is, for what it's worth, the tax is only 1% once it applies to you. It's 1%. And then past 2.1 million USD, past your assets beyond that, they tack on another 0.1%. And then also some things to understand here is they don't tax all your assets at their full market value. So for example, your primary residence, like the main home that you live in, they only take 25% of that home's market value. Or for example, stocks, if you had equity in a company, that's at 80% of that market value. So nothing is taken at its full market value. And then also any debt you have, the full 100% value of the debt you have can be written off against the tax that you would owe for this. So it's not as crazy as I think this could seem at first, even at a 1%, could seem really unreasonable if you're like in the US, right? You could just be a homeowner and own a home in maybe you own a home in like San Francisco or Oakland or Los Angeles, right? High value real estate areas where your home has exploded in value. And then all of a sudden you have to figure out a way to like pay this tax. Well, there's protections and acknowledgement in the way this law is written to have people, pay a reasonable amount, basically. And only 760,000 citizens in a country of almost 6 million people pay this tax at all, in any amount. So the pros behind this, like why is there such an advocacy for the rid of this wealth tax from this party? The idea is that that previously in 2021, there was a change to this law that added that little 0.1% to the 1% before. So for the wealthiest individuals in the country, they were going to tax them a tiny bit more, that additional 0.1%. And in the wake of that, 30 millionaires and billionaires left to relocate outside of Norway, primarily in Switzerland, because of the difference in tax laws. And it was estimated that because of that flight of those people, there was a loss of 500 million USD in tax revenue. And that loss in tax revenue is something that the trade-off basically wasn't worth it. Like people say that. The other arguments are that the tax on these unrealized gains deter people from setting up businesses in Norway. So relative to its neighbors, Norway, which was doing really, really well, say like 10, 15 years ago, compared to its neighbors like Denmark or Sweden or Switzerland, is relatively declining in like productivity, the number of like new companies created. And also, I went to go look at the largest companies in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. And just this is solely by the eye test. So if you really want to dig into this, I encourage you to. But when I was going through the list of companies from all of these places, I recognized basically nothing on Norway's list except companies involved in energy or oil. And Sweden and Denmark have way more recognizable large companies.
Is Maersk Norwegian?
I think so.
Largest Norway company.
I mean, Norway is like largely driven by oil, right?
It is, yeah. Yeah. So this is and this couples into this, that stagnation and reliance
I don't know
on
any of these.
oil and its sovereign wealth fund are criticisms of, combined with this wealth tax, are criticisms of why new innovative businesses and industries aren't cropping up in Norway like they have in their Nordic neighbors in comparison. And also, lastly, for those concerned about wealth inequality, regardless of this tax's implementation, has been increasing in Norway pretty significantly over the past 15 years. And so if this law is like meant to combat that significantly, it doesn't seem like it's doing a particularly good job. So all of these things are part of the argument of like why this is becoming a topic of contention within Norway. But the pushback and from a lot of people within Norway addresses a lot of these concerns. The weird thing is that it became a prominent issue within the scope of this election specifically. And a lot of the fears around capital flight, or like the losses that we're going to see if we continue to have this tax in place, seem a little weird because this election wasn't a referendum on this law changing or increasing the tax. The tax is staying the exact same as it has been over the last few years. So why would anyone leave that hasn't already left during that first year where those people made the decision? It doesn't seem likely to dramatically increase the number of people leaving in the next few years.
Wouldn't they leave after the first election afterwards because they know it's not going to get changed now? That's the idea?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to wait you were willing to wait 4 years the first time, and now you're not willing to wait another 4 years?
I guess I'm saying if you're a rich person, you're in there, this law gets passed, you're like, this sucks, and then you try to like...
So, maybe.
Advocate for someone to change it, then you lose the election, it's like, oh, it's not getting changed, I'm out.
Maybe.
Yeah,
so we have to wait and see. But the argument that comes alongside that is even if the flight does happen, wealth taxes are such a low percent of overall revenue that how much does this matter in the first place? Like if we're losing out on a few people leaving the system because of the way that this law works, how much does that matter to us when it has such a relatively small amount of our overall budget? So like last year in 2024, they brought in about $3 billion USD in overall tax revenue, which is about 3% of the revenue that they brought in overall. And that 3% is higher than like the previous 2 years. Like it had climbed up a bit.
Okay. What's your stance? What's your takeaway? What's your...
My take?
Yeah.
I think my take is...
Remember, you're going to be a Swedish citizen, so you need to kind of dig Norway a little bit.
Different country.
That's what I'm saying. Swedes would...
You have to show that you're ally.
You have to kind of look down on Norway.
I have to make fun of them.
You have to make fun of them.
Yeah, I don't... Yeah,
they you support Nordic...
They should keep the wealth tax so that I can move to Sweden and not have it, and I can say I'm better.
Okay.
No, I think the other couple things that I did agree with were the issue and how riled up people are about it, especially with young men, seems very disconnected from the reality of how many people this law prominently affects. Is like there's a very limited pool, less than 2,000 people, that this law significantly taxes. And the reason it taxes those people is because people who have the most wealth in Norway also have their wealth and income structured in ways that make it so they actually don't pay a lot via other means of tax payment, right? And the big thing with this wealth tax that they really hate is that there are very few loopholes with it. It's a very surefire way to get this group of people, especially with the changes they made in 2021, to escape the tax bill that you owe to Norway. Versus the other ways, when you're at that level of wealth, have ways for you to structure the way you make your money around paying taxes. And this is the way to keep those people accountable. I think the thing that I am most aligned with is when an issue that seems to affect so few people, specifically the ultra wealthy, and the primary argument against it, which is like spurring innovation and new companies in Norway, also has large other likely reasons as to like why that's the case and not this wealth tax specifically, it feels like a wolf in sheep's clothing of a few small, very wealthy people demanding the lift of a tax that affects them and trying to sell it as an issue that seems important to everybody. That's what I feel like when I read this. But that being said, Norway is one of the only countries that still has this net wealth tax in place, and a lot of other countries in Europe, including some of their Scandinavian neighbors, have over the past 100 years gotten rid of the wealth taxes that they used to have, and many of which are still pretty successful countries. So I think there's an argument either that kind of in either direction. Hold on, let me.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Unrealized capital gains tax is fucking stupid. Sorry, stupid?
Yeah.
No. I mean, maybe
you think that, but okay, this is the issue, right? Is like if I'm Elon Musk and my fortune has increased from 50 billion to 100 billion to 400 billion.
Yeah.
Primarily because of the growth of a specific asset, right?
Right.
At that level of income, when I wield hundreds of millions to billions of dollars, I don't function as a normal person in society anymore. I don't have a W-2 income that I take in and like pay taxes on. What I do is I take out loans that use the assets I own as the underlying like collateral for, essentially spending cash that I have, right? I interact with the world financially in a very, very different way. And just because this person sits on an asset that explodes in value, that enables them to access a portion of the financial system that none of normal people can access and interact with, should they be able to escape the burden of taxes on assets become a means to escape being taxed, if that's the case.
Yeah.
And so there comes a point at which I think you have to push against that. I think there are maybe better solutions than a wealth tax. I think that's but that's not what the Progress Party is advocating for. They just want to get rid of the wealth tax entirely.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I feel like unrealized capital gains tax is extremely flawed. And just to illustrate the point for people, Elon Musk has in quotes, whatever, at $400 billion. But if Tesla crashes tomorrow, he doesn't have that money anymore. He now has $200 billion. It's not that much money isn't sitting around in cash, right? So the way the current system works for America and most countries is he has to actually sell the stock. And at that point, he does pay taxes. Now, I would argue for increased capital gains tax. It's lower than normal income tax for some reason. You might know the exact numbers.
50% if you hold it for a year.
50 or
15.
15.
Isn't it
It's very
40 within the year and then like
No,
10?
it's your normal income, whatever that is.
Okay.
So maybe it's really high, so it'll be high.
Yeah.
So, but he has it all for over a year, so it'll be 15%.
Right. So
which
he
is
pays,
weirdly low for
right. It's like
Norway,
why would you pay lower taxes for something like that? Feels weird.
Yeah.
There's justifications, but still feels weird to me. And then what you said, people, incredibly rich people, basically leverage the fact that they have these stocks to get loans and get this other stuff, and that feels like a workaround around taxes. I think that should be addressed. But like what? Inherently just saying your stuff is worth this much, even though you don't actually have that much money, therefore we're going to tax you as though you have that much money, feels deeply flawed to me. I haven't seen an argument that convinces me on that. But, replacing that with another tax like we're talking about, I mean, I support tax on the wealthy.
No, I agree with you. I want to say one of the fucked up things we do is, you guys know what step-up basis is for like inheritance tax? So it's like if I get a stock at $10 and it goes to 100, if I were to sell that, I pay taxes on the $90 I made, right?
Yeah.
But if I hold it till I die by just borrowing against it, and then I pass it on to my kids, they get a new basis of 100, whatever it is now. So if they sold it, they would pay zero tax. They got
they
it at
haven't
100.
gained anything. Yeah.
They haven't gained
so
anything.
nobody ever paid to the gain.
Exactly. And so
That's
this whole buy, borrow, die strategy is like how it's done to keep this generational wealth going. And I think, man, for me, one of the biggest things is inheritance tax, because like that's what allows this stuff to become metastasized cancer in a society. Like even if Elon Musk invents something great, which, okay, whatever. Whatever. He's done some, Tesla's cars are cool and makes a lot more money than me. The real danger is when his fucking kids and grandkids who haven't done anything have way more opportunities than my kids and grandkids forever, because it just goes down. Like I really think inheritance tax is like so good for a functioning society. It's just like, all right, you get your shit, but now if you're over a certain amount, if you're over $10 million, $100 million, we're going to take a lot of that and use it to make society better for everybody. Like your kids don't, the fact that like the great grandnephew of Sam Walton is a fucking billionaire, like 14 of them or 28 of them, to me, it feels crazy. Like they all, and someone will tell me like, well, that's the point of working hard so you can have your family. But to me, that the generational wealth stuff is like the most
you don't have
cancerous.
to send 100%. I mean, it shouldn't.
Yeah, maybe it's not 100%. I'm not saying 100%, but like.
No.
Yeah.
That's the point. Yeah, it's like I don't think you should be able to give 100% of what you made to your kids. Like there needs to be at some point, a tax on what you've earned. And
yeah, I think there needs to be.
And that's the point of earning it, quote, is if you're giving your kids, I think, it's like.
In this situation, it feels like ideally you would be working on some sort of better system to be taxing these people, but in its place, I don't think you need to get rid of this, especially because
I agree with you.
Because the actual amount is so low. Like it's 1%.
It's inconsequential. It's probably fine, but it does feel like that's a stupid way of taxing people, and in the same way that we in America should close these essentially loopholes that rich people are getting. I mean, we should tax leveraging your unrealized assets for loans. Like that's ridiculous. They're just acting like their assets are money when they're anyway. So
to be fair,
in a perfect world, they fix the core problem.
Where I kind of land on this, why I think this is so hard is I kind of see there was like two sides or two answers to this, which I know that sounds silly.
Can you stop being a centrist? Pick a side.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Aiden.
Okay, so I think Norway
push
is
back against Lena Khan for once.
Yeah, God.
Norway is in a very unique position.
Maintain. We push back on people.
Norway is in a very unique position because it is sort of backstopped by their oil industry. They have this massive sovereign wealth fund that exists because of a nationalized oil industry. Yeah. And it's a system that a lot of countries do not have, like safeguarding their economy in a lot of ways.
So I agree the same way.
And you could argue there's sort of consequences in the long term because of a reliance on that specific commodity, right? In the short term, I think you can afford to keep this wealth tax because largely it doesn't affect normal people very much. And it affects these wealthy people that are threatening to flee, maybe, because since the last change, it doesn't seem like there's been an influx of people or outflux of people fleeing. And if you're willing to like gamble on how relevant oil will be for a long time, it doesn't really matter if those people leave because of the safety net of the oil industry. This is a tax that produces relatively low income, so you can deal with the consequences of those people maybe leaving. You don't even know if they really will, and you can keep this tax in place. The big trade-off I see is this revenue could become way more relevant, or people having the capital to stir up new industries or businesses in your country could be way more relevant if the value of oil starts to collapse and you need other industries to pick up the slack within your economy. Because that's the big gap in Norway right now, is that since like 2013, the productivity of their non-oil-based economy has been declining relative to the other countries around them. And I think that's the long-term versus short-term argument you really have to make here. That's how I felt after I read through all this. I'd like to hear from normal Norwegian guys and girls about what they think about this. The general thing that I got from like young people when I heard them being interviewed is like, this is like a non-issue. The Progress Party has turned this into a talking point. We want to focus on other
real problems like immigrants.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I can't imagine this is a big voting issue.
I think that's the thing. The criticism is that this got stirred into a big voting issue when it doesn't make sense.
But I think even Progress Party voters, if you ask them, would probably put immigration as their number one. Like I have not heard of this being like at least in other countries, I mean, it's because they don't have it. Yeah, but even the countries that had it, like, Was it something that the regular people were pushing for, like demanding to get rid of? Like I
In
feel
this case, apparently, yes,
Okay.
at least from the articles that I've read. But people who are boots on the ground participating
us
in the
know.
Norwegian election can like weigh in and see how accurate that reporting is. But I was surprised by every single article I went to about this election. The wealth tax was like at the forefront of it. Yeah, that's a compared to what other people are dealing with, it's maybe not that big of a deal. They're essentially it's so
They're
funny
so
because
rich.
if you spin the globe, if you
so
spin the
rich.
globe, it's like
Okay.
oh Norway's arguing about the 0.1% they added to their wealth tax, And do we and people talking about, do we have too much oil money? Yeah, fucking. I hope Norway falls off the fucking map.
There we go.
There we go. Finally,
That's what I
putting a
need.
foot on one side. We're almost out of time. Atrioc, do you want to hit the story about Australia? I know you mentioned you wanted to hit
Yeah,
that.
it was really important. Thank you for bringing this up. It's
Yeah.
I think I read about this in your book, actually.
Yeah, I
This
was
is actually
talking
a
about it.
big geopolitical deal. Koalas, Doug, they killed the prime minister.
Wow. Tell me
Anthony
more.
Albanese was visiting a koala factory. That's where they work. They
Right.
do a lot of work down there.
Yeah.
Hold on. Do the people work at the koala factory?
Don't
or
ask
do the
questions
koalas
while
work
I'm
at the
giving a
factory?
presentation.
I'm
Let him
sorry.
do
My
The
the
fault.
koalas were working hard to create the Australian economy, and he was trying to tax them.
Tax the koala.
There he goes again
Koala
with the
tax.
taxes. And it was a wealth tax on the koala's bamboo, and they rioted and they killed him. And that's That's the
Unrealized
story.
bamboo. It hadn't
Don't
grown
they,
yet.
eat, don't they
Unrealized
eat
bamboo.
eucalyptus?
you'd think that, but not these ones.
Yeah.
They're hungry for bamboo, Aiden. And I
That's
don't appreciate
part
you
of the
constantly
issues that are
interjecting
going on in the
my
world
story.
today.
This is my story, the one that I brought.
Yeah, it's my fault.
Guys, we are out of time, and we have like 15 more stories we didn't get to. We didn't plan.
Nope, that's it.
That's all that happened in the
That's all
world.
that's happened in the world.
We'll do more on the Patreon, and I appreciate you guys listening. What else? Do you want to say anything about the?
Yeah, I guess just final note
Okay.
on Charlie Kirk stuff. So
Because you didn't get to be in the.
yeah, we're not going to chat. Obviously, it's a big story with a lot of impact. And if you were interested in a longer discussion, last week I was unable to attend because of the charity streams I was doing. But there's like 40-minute discussion on Patreon. So if you want to hear in a lot of depth about that, that'd be the place to do it. That was recorded like a day or two
was
after
right
it happened.
after.
Yeah, it was basically
So
right
it's much
after.
more fresh and with a lot of depth.
I think we wanted to dive into it just because, it was right after it happened. And I know that's when I was thinking about even over the weekend, I've been thinking about it so much. So I think if you're interested in listening to that, it's like 40,
I really enjoyed that
it's like
discussion.
40 minutes
Yeah.
of a 70-minute episode. So
It helped me. Yeah, it helped me get my thoughts together on it. We just really hashed it out. I thought it was a good discussion.
Yeah, and then plus, Atrioc, you have videos on your own channel. Yeah.
Which I have a note I want to give after you say your thing.
Okay, I'm just gonna. This is probably fucking obvious, and I'm just gonna say it anyway to say it. Political violence is really, really bad, and I'm real concerned about this, and I'm concerned at how many people seem to celebrate it. I think it's fine to abhor Charlie Kirk's views, and I disagree with him as far as I can tell in almost everything. I don't deeply know his stuff, but the idea that apparently millions of people will go on social media to celebrate the murder of a person for the views that they expressed verbally is super deeply concerning to me. The fact that any portion of our society seems to think that's an okay or should be celebrated in any way this is a extremely worrying trend that if you just think for an instant on if this applies to both sides and everybody starts doing this is a fundamental breakdown of democratic process of nobody being able to speak their mind on anything because you just get shot or you're gunned down. This is the path to totalitarianism. This is like the core tenet of fascism. This type of shit is abhorrent to me. I'm really disturbed by it, and it's been very sad to see how many people are celebrating it or seem to think it's. I don't know, man. And I know I'm sure you guys went on a long thing.
We talk about this a lot. I think. Yeah,
And again,
we came some conclusions.
to clarify, just because you guys misheard maybe my point, it's not that you have to feel bad for Charlie specifically, but the idea that that shooting people who say things you disagree with, that's anywhere near on the level of saying things is fucking crazy to me. And it's so incredibly dangerous. And how do we have a functioning democracy? How do people talk about issues? I really... It's been kind of disturbing to me. So I think the vast majority of people are on the same page, which is whoa, not cool. You should not fucking murder people who say things you disagree with. But I just wanted to really also vehemently express that view. And
we landed on pretty much the same spot. I think one thing we said was imagine an example of somebody who is deeply against abortion, right? And so they believe that an abortion doctor is killing babies. In
Yeah.
their mind, they are now, based on this logic of like, this guy said or did abhorrent
Right.
things, like they should be able to go firebomb that place or kill that guy. It's just, it does not work that way. We have laws for a reason. We make them, yeah, I get it. I agree with you on generally that. I want to say something a little more lighthearted after your speech, which is inappropriately timed, but I have to bring it up anyway.
Again?
I have to do it on the pod so that you guys are on camera and you can't get mad at me. This is about, I made that video about Charlie Kirk.
Okay.
Gavin Newsom saw it.
What?
Gavin Newsom or his team saw that video and then reached out and wants to do a one-on-one interview with me about So I'm just telling you, this happened this morning. I got called this morning by Gavin Newsom's team. And so I have now cut you and now cut you. So it's just me and Gavin.
No, it's cool.
No,
it's good.
But what's weird is the way,
It's cool.
I was telling you ahead of time, the way they phrased it was like, we want to see, I think they want me to explain like what Discord is or like what gamers think. They're like, what's going on with gamers?
What do the gamers think?
Why are
about this?
gamers getting so radical? Whatever, that's the idea.
When
So-
Aiden moves to Sweden, can I still be a guest on your and Gavin's
Yeah.
podcast?
Fuck you guys, dude. I can't believe this.
I'd still like to hang out some of the
Gavin, we
time.
can hash it out.
We could have had it something.
We can hash it out.
I'm just gonna send you a Mustang, bro. You show up, you say your intro.
What do I need to? What do we need to do to start getting this love from Gavin? Right? Golly, man.
Now he's on your side. I guess.
Yeah, yeah, now he knows what it's like.
It changed quickly.
Um,
I don't know. If you guys have final thoughts,
Yo, you guys see what happened in Antarctica?
the Penguins, bro.
Damn
they're
shit.
doing science.
No.
down there.
Let's save that for the Patreon.
Yeah, that's for the Patreon. You guys will blow your mind.
We'll see you guys on the Patreon. You gotta go patreon.com/lemonadestand. We're almost at 10,000 paid patrons for our trip to China.
Our
And-
trip to China,
Where we are deporting Aiden to China.
Yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
leave him there. We just leave him behind.
Can I not? I'm beginning to feel a little bullied.
We're gonna
If
leave you
we
at
get
the
to-
Huawei
I'm beginning to
factory.
feel bullied.
You'll get a new phone and a
Yeah.
laptop.
At 11,000 patrons, Gavin Newsom's joining
In China.
in China.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.